So I've got a few questions for you, Phil, on Bokashi.
Right.
From our customers thinking about what are the actual benefits. So can you tell us about how, when you make Bokashi, when you ferment your kitchen waste, how that stabilises carbon?
Yeah, it's probably easier to talk about how other methods of composting don't stabilize carbon. So the key with Bokashi is that the chemical reaction of fermenting the carbohydrate in it means that very little of the carbon is lost as gas. So you get a certain amount of carbon dioxide comes off, but not as much as you would with other composting. So basically you're breaking down the long chain sugars into short chains and ethanol. And those two things are the food for aerobic bacteria in the soil afterwards. So that carbon goes straight from your kitchen waste through your Bokashi kit and then into your soil. And that, when it's in the soil, the organic organisms eat it and stabilize it, so that you maintain or retain far more of it than you do with conventional composting systems using heat or stirring them, mixing them all the time, where you lose more to the atmosphere.
So would that be methane?
Well, it comes off as various things. So that fermentation gives off carbon dioxide. Normal composting will give off a mixture of methane, carbon dioxide, and in some cases nitrous oxide.
But with your normal composting, when you turn it, the volume is radically reduced.
That's right.
Whereas with Bokashi,
broadly speaking, it stays the same.
So you've got more organic matter in the soil.
Yep.
And so how much more, what does that do for you? What's the benefit of that?
So the thing with soils, particularly in the UK, unless you live on a black peaty soil such as the fens, our soil organic matter contents are, broadly speaking, in a garden, I would say between 2 and 4 or 5% tops. If you consider the prairies in North America before they were ploughed up were 13% organic matter, and now having been tilled are mostly about 1, you can see the degradation. And the key fact is that organic matter is what gives the soil structure so that it can hold water. It has this huge ability to hold water, so it slows down the path of water through it when very wet times, and in dry times it extends the period of having that water available to your plants.
And so practically in a garden, when we've got these deluges of rain and maybe we've had to pave over our front garden so that we can park the car, we are reliant on this 6 inches of soil worldwide. And I think 1 kilo of organic matter holds 17 kilos of water.
That's correct. You have to consider that that's 1 kilo of organic matter at, say, about 5% in soil. So it's not literally a bag of sugar's worth of organic matter, but that quantity of soil will hold 17 litres of water. And what that means is that instead of, when you have this deluge, the water either runs off into the drain or wherever, or it pours straight through the soil, what it means is it slows it up so that it doesn't leach any nutrients that are in the soil as quickly, and it extends, it just smooths the graph over. It's in construction terms, they talk about, what's the word for them, where they dig a hole and fill it full of milk crates to slow down water. It's the same effect. So you have this reservoir within the soil that holds it, and so it's there for you to use when it's dry, but it goes slower when it's very wet.
And can you link that to your farm? So I know that for many, many years we didn't add organic matter in the form of farmyard manure or similar, but we did add organic matter in the form of grass seed that was then ploughed in, basically.
I think really exactly the same principles apply. So there's all sorts of ways you can add organic matter to your soil. So it can be as an amendment, farmyard manure or compost on the farm, Bokashi and compost on the garden, but you also grow your organic matter in the soil. So by having a good crop, you're adding organic matter in that crop's roots to the soil. And the key is not to lose it. So that by over-tilling the soil, disturbing it too much, that's what destroys the organic matter. So that you've got several ways of accumulating it, but you've got to try and minimize losing it.
So how much have you managed to make a difference to your farm by adding compost, organic manure, farmyard manure, cover crops? What is the measurement?
That is very interesting, because there is an ongoing argument about how you measure organic matter, and basically you have to think in terms of a range, because it's an inaccurate science. It varies through the season, it varies over the year. It is a cycle. So that from that point of view, at some points in the year it could be 3%, at some points it could be 5%, and if you have a disastrously wet time it could go down as low as 1%. So the point is that you want an upward graph in general, even if there's a few undulations on the way. And basically it comes down to, in our case, we can see that the soil is better. We can measure admittedly very small changes, and that's why I prefaced that by saying it's a range, because we're talking on the farm of 0.1% increase of, or even 0.01% increase of organic matter, which is in the middle of the range, so that it's insignificant. But if you can see the benefit in structure, which we can, then it starts to behave better, and the plants get on better in it.